Hello, and welcome back to Gathering the Magic. Today we're doing a combo tier list. Infinite combos are like giving a child an AR-15, and we all know the repercussions of unsafe firearm practices in households. Alright, starting with F tier, we have the shittiest infinite mana combo. Palitron plus High Tide. If you use this combo, then you might want to get an IQ test. This one is simple. You cast High Tide to double the amount of mana your islands produce this turn. Then you cast Palitron to untap 7 lands, and then using Palitron's ability to return it to your hand and repeat the process for infinite mana. High Tide is an instant, making it a little harder to interact with, but it still relies on a permanent. It costs 12 mana, which seems like a lot, but High Tide doubles the amount of mana your islands produce. You need at least 6 islands for this combo, making it way harder to get out than your average combo, and it has an additional cost of 4 mana. Bubbling Muck is another instant that doubles the output of lands and can be used in place of High Tide, but you would need 8 lands instead of 6. 4 islands and 4 swamps. It's not a combo that wins the game on its own, and would require a win con or a payoff. And this is why it's an F tier. This next one is kind of funny. I like to call it the Transformer combo because you're using Devoted Druid in Swift Reconfiguration. Devoted Druid is a normal green mana dork, but it also has an ability to untap itself by putting a -1/-1 counter on it, and Swift Reconfiguration, well, it's an aura that turns any creature into an artifact vehicle, making it lose all other types. Basically, now that Devoted Druid isn't a creature, it doesn't have a power and toughness and can't die to its negative toughness. This combo relies on 3 card types, creatures, enchantments, and artifacts, and if you remove Devoted Druid, you lose both combo pieces. But relying on 3 card types makes it a lot easier to remove, because if you have creature or enchantment removal, you only need 1 type of removal to take it out. This combo costs 3 mana and has no additional costs, plus it gives you infinite green mana. It uses 2 colors but only gives you 1 mana type in return, but you can swap out Swift Reconfiguration for Luxor, Guided Gift for a colorless option, Hazel Brewmaster for a black option, and Visor of Remedies or Solemnity for more white options. Infinite mana combos don't win on their own, and green already has a lot of mana ramp, but it's a cheap infinite combo that gives you a lot of advantage for early game, and that's why it's in C tier. And for our next combo, we have Niv-Mizzet, the Firemind, plus Curiosity. Niv-Mizzet Powerin also does the same thing for this combo, except we are using Firemind because it can tap to draw a card, making it just a little more efficient, and they both cost the same anyway. Basically, Niv-Mizzet deals damage to a creature or player whenever you draw a card, and Curiosity is an aura that makes you draw a card every time the enchanted creature deals damage to an opponent. This combo relies on 2 card types, creature and enchantment. It costs 7 mana, but Niv-Mizzet costs 6, and you can't cast Curiosity before Niv-Mizzet because it's an aura. It can get started on its own by tapping Niv-Mizzet to draw a card and dealing damage to a target opponent. It has replacements for Curiosity such as Flump, Helm of the Guestlord, and Keen Sense. Damaging opponents and drawing cards is always useful, and it immediately wins the game while drawing your counterspells and interaction just in case. But this combo is very slow, hindering your chance of actually winning the game with it. Our next combo is Kiki-Jiki Mirror Breaker plus Zelia's Conscripts. This combo is quite simple. You tap Kiki-Jiki to make a copy of Zelia's Conscripts with haste, and then when the copy of Zelia's Conscripts enters, it untaps Kiki-Jiki, giving you infinite 3/3 tokens with haste. Both cards are creatures, but you can disrupt this combo at any time by removing Kiki-Jiki. It costs 10 mana, which is quite pricey, but both cards are decent additions to your deck. Because of its high cost, additional ramp and fast mana cards are required to make this combo viable, but if you don't get those cards, it takes a long time to get out. Even though it's expensive, it's not legal in bracket 3, and there's not a lot of replacements for any of the cards. This combo is similar to Dualcaster Mage and Twin Flame, where it makes tokens with haste to swing out with, and wins immediately. Alright, and now we have Gitrog Monster and Dakmor Salvage. This combo gives you infinite self-mill and infinite discard triggers. The Gitrog Monster allows you to draw a card whenever a land card is put into your graveyard, and Dakmor Salvage is a land with Dredge 2. Whenever you draw a card, you may mill 2 cards and return this card to your hand. Basically, you need Dakmor in your hand and at least 7 other cards. And you go into your end step and discard Dakmor, triggering a draw. And you mill 2 to return it to your hand instead. Then since it's still your end step, you must discard down to 7 again. You can't interact with Dakmor Salvage because you're discarding it. Dredge is a replacement effect and doesn't go on the stack. It costs 5 mana, which is pretty cheap. The fuck even is this? It's hard to tutor for non-basic lands, but in black it's not too much of an issue, but you do also need at least 7 other cards in your hand. This combo needs extra steps to get the combo rolling, as well as card draw and win cons. It doesn't win on its own, it's used mostly for graveyard recursion decks. This combo would be terrible on its own, but if you run Gitrog monster as your commander, then you're not only getting the card draw you need for this combo, but also extra lands. Basically, this combo is not very flexible and only good if you build around the Gitrog monster. This is why I'm putting it in C tier. Godo, Bandit Warlord plus Helm of the Host is an infinite combat combo, which is something red is very good at. Basically, when Godo enters, you get to search for an equipment and put it on the battlefield, and then you get an additional combat phase and an untap Godo when Godo attacks for the first time each turn. Then Helm of the Host makes a non-legendary copy of Godo with haste at the beginning of every combat phase, allowing you to attack with Godo on the battlefield an infinite amount of times. You don't need to attack with the original Godo equipped with Helm of the Host, since it makes it a copy with haste at the beginning of combat. It costs 11 mana, which is quite expensive, and most of the time it's a late game combo, but Godo is a tutor for equipment, so it's very easy to set up, and you don't even need a tutor most of the time. You can swap out Godo with any extra combat creature, and red has lots of fast mana cards to get this combo out quicker. It does win on its own, but it usually takes too long to get out. This is why I'm putting it in C tier. Now we have Basalt Monolith plus Rings of Bright Earth. This is another infinite mana combo. How it works is by tapping Basalt Monolith, untapping Basalt Monolith, and then copying the untap ability for 2 with Rings of Bright Earth, and then paying for the ability by tapping Basalt Monolith, and again untapping Basalt Monolith with the copied ability since it's not a mana ability. Each loop of this combo nets 1 colorless mana. Both cards are artifacts, which makes removal a little harder. It costs 6 mana, and you don't need to worry about the activation cost because Basalt Monolith pays for itself. Since both cards are colorless artifacts, they can fit into just about any deck. But as you know, infinite mana doesn't win on its own and would require a payoff or win con. Oh shit, this is all in B tier. Fuck. Next we have Sanguine Bond plus Exquisite Blood. How Sanguine Blood works is whenever you gain life, opponents lose life. And when opponents lose life, you gain life, creating an infinite loop that will drain your opponents and give you life in the process. Both cards are enchantments, so it's a little harder to interact with, but it does need additional life loss or life gain to get the combo rolling. It costs 10 mana, which is quite expensive, but it does fit into multiple decks and is legal in bracket 3. Black has many more cards that can act as replacements for Sanguine Bond or Exquisite Blood, such as Bloodthirsty Conqueror. This combo wins the game immediately on activation and gains you life in the process, allowing you to win the game faster. Next we have Ashnod's Altar plus Gift of Immortality, or Blessing of Leeches. This combo is an infinite mana combo, and bonus points if you're running Priest of Gix or any other creature that generates mana when it enters, although you would need Gift of Immortality for that. Gift of Immortality and Blessing of Leeches are both auras that you attach to a creature, giving you mono black or mono white option. What Gift of Immortality does is that when the enchanted creature dies, you return the creature from the graveyard to the battlefield at instant speed, and then reattach Gift of Immortality to the creature, allowing you to sacrifice it for value and re-trigger ETBs. Blessing of Leeches, on the other hand, allows you to regenerate the enchanted creature for free on its death, but it doesn't give you death or enter triggers. This combo relies on 3 card types: creatures, artifacts, and enchantments, which makes it much easier to remove. It costs 5 mana plus whatever creature you use, but if you use Priest of Gix, it gives back the mana used to cast it, and it can give infinite mana in return. This is technically a 3 card combo, and requires a little extra setup, but it can fit into any black Aristocrat deck, and Orzhov is known for Aristocrat deck archetypes. And it has plenty of other sack outlets such as Phyrexian Altar or Altar of Dementia. Most of the time it requires a win con to win the game, but you can use Altar of Dementia, and if you're using Priest of Gix, then you can get both infinite mana and infinite mill. This might be one of the only infinite mana combos that can actually win on its own. Next in B tier we have Panoptic Mirror and Time Warp. This is an infinite turn combo. Panoptic Mirror allows you to imprint any number of instants or sorceries and triggers at your upkeep to cast one of the imprinted card. In this case, you imprint Time Warp or any other infinite turn card. The trick with this combo is, since it's an activated ability to imprint a card, You imprint Time Warp at your opponent's end step so that it triggers at your upkeep. Imprint is an ability which means it's hard to counter Time Warp. It costs 10 mana, but you can cast Panoptic Mirror anytime and still imprint Time Warp when you get it. You can also imprint tutors onto Panoptic Mirror for repeatable tutoring. Panoptic Mirror triggers at your upkeep, so it's a turn slower than a normal combo, and there's no replacements for Panoptic Mirror, but it has a few options for extra turn spells such as Temporal Extortion, which costs 4 mana, and players can pay life to counter it. It's almost impossible to win against infinite term combos once it's out. Even just a few extra turns can give you a huge advantage. Anyway, Knowledge Pool and Drannith Magistrate is next on the list. This combo is disgusting. With Knowledge Pool and Drannith Magistrate on the battlefield, it stops your opponents from casting anything. No ifs, no buts, no spells. You're basically just telling your opponents, hey, you can't play the game anymore. As long as this combo is on the battlefield, your opponents can't cast anything and can't interact with the combo. If you play Drannith Magistrate early, then they wouldn't be able to play their commander either. It costs 8 mana, but Knowledge Pool itself is 6 mana, which makes it considerably slower. Multiple replacements for Drannith Magistrate exist, such as Teferi Time Raveler, Teferi Mage of Zafir, and Deafening Silence. It can fit into any blue or white deck, but it would be better in a deck built around Knowledge Pool because of the many synergistic cards. This doesn't immediately win you the game, but there's no way to win against this combo when it's active. It's basically a combo that wins by making your opponent scoop. Not only that, but Drannith Magistrate stops your opponents from playing their commanders from the command zone, making their commander almost as useless as the US Supreme Court. Next we have in B tier is Isotron Scepter plus Dramatic Reversal. The way this works is you cast Isotron Scepter, imprinting Dramatic Reversal when it enters, and then for 2 mana you can untap all non-land permanents, including Isotron Scepter itself, for infinite mana, infinite storm triggers, and infinite untap. This combo only has one weak point, that being Isotron Scepter, and imprinting Dramatic Reversal can't normally be countered. It costs 2 mana, but requires another 2 mana each loop. It requires mana ramps such as Soul Ring to continuously untap it for mana. Since it needs additional ramp for this to work, it makes it harder to set up, but it does have a few replacement cards like Elite Arcanist, and it can also imprint Narset's Reversal to copy spells repeatedly. This combo only works well with decks that run heavy mana ramp, and it doesn't win on its own, but it's a fast infinite mana combo, and there's many other permanents that can be untapped for benefit. Playing this combo early game can give you a massive game advantage. Moving on to A tier, we have Mindcrank plus Dusk Mantle Guildmage. God, my mouth is so dry. This is an infinite mill combo. How it works is Mindcrank makes your opponent's mill cards equal to the life they lose, and Dusk Mantle has an activated ability where until end of turn, whenever a card enters the graveyard, they lose 1 life. It uses 2 different card types, artifacts and creatures, which makes it a little easier to remove, but it only costs 4 mana for the combo pieces, with an additional cost of 3 mana to get the combo started, but you can activate it at instant speed. This only really fits into Dimir mill decks, but it doesn't need to rely on other cards to win and makes it harder for your opponents to win by putting all their interaction into the graveyard. This next combo is for when you're feeling like being a dick. That's right, it's a Stax and control combo. The combo I'm talking about is Marlin of the Mornsong plus Opposition Agent. Now this combo is technically not an infinite combo, but it makes it so that you and your opponent search your library for a card and take 3 damage each turn, but whenever your opponent search for their library, you get to search it instead and steal the card. Both cards in this combo are creatures, and it completely stops your opponents from drawing cards or searching their deck for removal spells, which makes it a lot more resilient than a normal combo. It costs 6 mana, but for Stax there's plenty of time to find this combo since their strategy is delaying the game. Marlin allows you to search for Opposition Agent if you can play it early, but it's at the cost of giving your opponents a free tutor. Also, a new enchantment version of Marlin called Mornsong Arya dropped in Lorwyn, giving you an additional card that you can use for this combo. It doesn't exactly win on its own, but it does allow you to search for win cons and combos while preventing your opponents from drawing or tutoring. Next on the chopping block is Painter's Servant plus Grandstone, another mill combo. This one works by making all cards not in play all one color with Painter's Servant, and then using Grandstone's ability to make the target player mill 2 cards, and if they share at least one color, you repeat the process. So in other words, it repeats indefinitely because you just made all cards the same color. This uses two card types, creature and artifact, making it easier to interact with, but it only costs 3 mana with an additional cost of 3 to activate. Both cards are colorless and can go into any deck and fits well with any mill deck whether you're milling yourself or another player. Grindstone is a decent value card, but Painter's Servant is mostly useless on its own. There are multiple ways to win with mill. Thassa's Oracle is a good extra win con, but no win cons are necessary for this to win. If you are an avid mill player, first of all, go fuck yourself. But secondly, this is absolutely the combo to strive for. And Painter's Servant was reprinted in Lorwyn Eclipse, making it more available. Up next is my personal favorite 2-card infinite combo, Dualcaster Mage and Twin Flame. The combo works like this. You cast Twin Flame targeting a creature you control, holding priority, then cast Dualcaster Mage to make a copy of Twin Flame, and targeting Dualcaster Mage with the copy to make infinite 2/2s with haste. Dualcaster Mage is such a powerful card because it goes infinite with so many instants and sorceries. It goes into ETB decks, Spellslinger decks, Storm decks, aggro decks, and even group slug decks. Dualcaster Mage has an ETB, and Twin Flame is an instant, making it very hard to interact with after Dualcaster Mage enters. It only costs 5 mana, which is very cheap, but you need to cast both cards on the same turn. It has an average setup and doesn't need extra cards to win the game. Dualcaster Mage can go infinite with many other cards such as Flicker and copy creature spells and can be utilized with many different strategies. Twin Flame gives the copies haste, which lets you win on the turn you play this combo. You can also cast this on your opponent's turn for infinite blockers, then swing out and win on your next turn. Next we have Demonic Consultation and Thassa's Oracle. This combo is a classic jank cEDH combo, relying on a broken card with a broken ability that should not work the way it does. Let me break it down for you. First, you need Thassa's Oracle and Demonic Consultation in your hand. Then you cast Demonic Consultation, naming Thassa's Oracle as the card, and since Thassa's Oracle isn't in your library, you exile your entire library. Then you cast Thassa's Oracle and immediately win the game. This combo is very resilient because the only thing that can stop this combo are counterspells. Thassa's Oracle has an enter the battlefield trigger, meaning if it enters the battlefield it's already too late. It only costs 3 mana and it has no additional costs. It's an insanely fast and insanely broken combo. You exile your entire library, so if you need any other cards you better have them in your hand. And it goes into any Dimir mill deck. Lord knows there's too many of those, but it's hard to put it in any other deck since it relies on Demonic Consultation. It does have some replacements for Thassa's Oracle though, with all the normal stuff, Lab Maniac, Jace Wielder of Mysteries. It wins the game insanely fast, but it's especially bad against blue players. One counterspell and you lose the game. Lastly for A tier, we have Heliod's Sun Crown paired with Walking Ballista. What this combo does is Heliod gives Walking Ballista lifelink, and whenever you gain life you get to put a +1/+1 counter on Ballista. The resistance of this combo is outstanding because Heliod is an indestructible god, and Walking Ballista has this little trick where you can cast it for 0, letting it die so it doesn't get countered, and then later on you can use the reanimation card to bring Ballista back from the dead, sometimes for even cheaper than the original cost. It costs 7 mana minimum, but with the Walking Ballista trick you might be able to reduce the cost. And it also has an additional cost of 2 mana. It's a great addition to any white deck because of its synergy with life gain, but Mikaeus, the Unhallowed, is a good mono-black replacement for Heliod. This combo wins the game on its own, and at the same time it gains you life, kinda like a better mono-white version of the Sanguine Bond combo. Life gain makes it hard for you to lose even if they use protection spells to counteract the combo. Moving on to S tier combos that almost nobody actually uses. First in the S tier we have another mill combo. This one is a meta combo in cEDH, and quite a strong combo. We're talking about Underworld Breach and Brain Freeze. Brain Freeze has Thorn, making free copies of itself for every spell cast before it, and Underworld Breach allows you to cast cards from your graveyard by paying its normal cost, plus exiling 3 additional cards from your graveyard. This allows you to recast Brain Freeze as many times as you want, milling yourself for 9 cards each time to pay the additional cost, and milling your opponents exponentially each loop. Underworld Breach is an enchantment, and Brain Freeze is an instant. Enchantments are resilient because enchantment hate isn't common. Since Breach allows you to recast cards from your graveyard, it's hard to interact with. Brain Freeze has Storm, meaning even if you counter one of them, there's still multiple on the stack. It requires extra mana to complete each loop, but there are many cards you can use for mana, such as Lotus Petal or Lion's Eye Diamond, and displace your kit into Flicker Lands or Mana Rocks. It costs 4 mana, which is excellent, but it also requires 2 additional mana each loop. But the additional cost isn't much of an issue. Its setup is a little hard since you need 2 cards plus extra mana, so it has heavy reliance on infinite mana combos. But luckily for you, Underworld Breach is a good infinite mana engine, and Brain Freeze helps you find cards. There's multiple cards you can use in place of Brain Freeze, such as Grinding Station and Wheel of Fortune. This combo can win on its own, and there's multiple ways to win with this combo, like with Thassa's Oracle or Mayhem Devil. Next in S tier is Ad Nauseam plus Angel's Grace. This combo allows you to draw as many cards as you want while getting to live. Both cards are instants or sorceries, and are hard to interact with. It costs 6 mana, which is cheap, but you also have to cast both on the same turn. With lots of fast mana cards, you can play your win cons on the same turn, and Ad Nauseam works great on its own, basically as close to a 1-card combo as it gets. It's able to be put in a bracket 3 deck, surprisingly. It doesn't win the game on its own, but allows you to draw fast mana, counter spells, or other interaction and win cons, making it easy to win on the same turn. Win cons for Ad Nauseam are self-mill payoffs, storm cards, or other combos. That concludes your list. The best combo in Magic the Gathering is a close match between Ad Nauseam and Underworld Breach, but I think Ad Nauseam takes the cake because it's more flexible and allows you to search your win cons, not to mention Ad Nauseam is able to work on its own and is harder to interact with than Underworld Breach because it's an instant rather than an enchantment. Do you agree with this tier list? Let me know in the comments. I totally respect your opinion. If you like Magic the Gathering content and want to support the channel, the best way to help is by subscribing. Good luck, and you're welcome.